all right. Enough jamming, right? So, but I wanted to introduce everybody to the kind of the sound of today's lesson. If you heard some different things in there, I'm going to explain exactly what you heard. And we're also kind of in part two of part one, but instead of a boring navigation, strict like, okay, here's the pattern across the fretboard video, I came up with this instead, kind of by accident, but all of a sudden I realized that I had heard some information a while back that suddenly clicked, and I knew right away that we were adding a new dimension to my playing concept here. And there were even a couple like epiphanies. So I wanted to, I thought, why not teach this lesson then as the part two instead of, because the navigation will be there anyways, and we're having so much fun learning this multi-dimensional playing here that the navigation will just be kind of in the background happening. So here we are, and we're thinking like, so the title goes, at least on this page, Larry Carlton, for sure. Barry Harris, maybe Alan Holdsworth, I don't know. These are the names that came up when I did a Google search for information on this topic. But topic that I know for sure that I have heard before from the maestro himself, Larry Carlton, not specifically himself in that exact way, but somehow something got stuck here. I'm trying to get a cord plugged in because I have speakers going, and I need to hear myself in my headphones so I can know for sure that things are happening properly. And for fuck's sake, I don't think they are. Oh, for fuck's sake. Everything sounds really distant and weird, so we've got some volume shenanigans to do. Oh, there we go. Alright, now I've ruined my video with something I'm not going to edit out there, but because I like that playing I did in the beginning. Okay, sorry everybody. You know the deal here. Impromptu lessons here at Mind's Eye. Off the cuff visualizations. I don't know. Anyway, so Larry Carlton for sure. I'd heard this information from him. And now everything really correlates here. I'm going to try to turn my volume down there just a touch. A touch too much. So Barry Harris, not so much, but that came up when I did a Google search, as well as Alan Holdsworth. You can sort of apply this. There may be some correlations here between what we're going to teach today, but here it is. So what we got is what to play over a major 7 chord. You know, major 7 chord comes along, and that's today's lesson. We're going to do then a minor 7, and we're going to apply this Larry Carlton technique or suggestion to this chord the way he specified to do, and we're going to see how using this method it actually becomes really simplified to find these different dimensions of playing. And like basically there was an epiphany, and I'll just tell it to you right now. So what we got here is from our last lesson, we're going to recognize the box, the arpeggio box that came from the pentatonic and allows us to have control of those gut notes, whatever. Well, what I've noticed, what I've realized now, if you're saying like, hey, so this method sounds really good. Well, what's the only difference between this method and other methods that I thought were noodling? Because, well, this is part of a scale. Well, in those lessons, everything was a line of notes. Playing the scale, right chord. I could match them up all day long, but not only are you playing, there's no sense to the note choices when you just play lines that come from scale shapes, memorize patterns on the that I taught for the first 5 years of this channel. Sorry. Don't follow me on the journey. I'm going the wrong way. No. So playing those things, nothing is coming alive. There's none of that, even though maybe once in a while I could, hit, okay, that's a good note at that part, but why? And how do I reproduce that? So not reliable and not working. So what was the key? Well, I kind of found it here in playing now with arpeggios as the basis, knowing like the good notes, the solid notes, the place to be. I've kind of heard that once you follow the advice today and we displace or move these arpeggio shapes, something is going to become apparent that what you're hearing in these great solos, no matter if it was Joe Satriani, Eric Johnson, Larry Carlton, pick any one of your favorite guitarists, for the most part, you're hearing like what I call harmonic like groups of notes. That there's certain choices you can make, like this arpeggio shape. These notes are all related in their frequencies and they ring well together. And so these notes, it's these combinations together that give the emotion that doesn't come from just playing, random lines and not knowing what you're landing on. And you can develop that more. The more you play with them, you'll even develop that more. But that's why, this explains why we're going to take this shape today and realize that we're not just limited to the, like, say, C major arpeggio when the C major chord is going on. It's still great to play. It's still going to be your home base and can solve a lot of problems for tension and release. However, there's all these other dimensions by playing this exact same arpeggio off of different notes of the chord. So it's almost like you're arpeggiating like different chords over this steady C major vamp. And when you do that, you basically get different extensions like a piano player. So like right now, the extensions that we're playing all over our guitar piano are the chord tones that are being played at the moment, C, E, and G. And we can say we added in the 6 there because it's cool. And so you're playing those 4 notes all around. Well, there's the 3 leftover white keys since we're playing C major here. So there's, we've got 4 notes. We've got 3 notes left to make a 7-note diatonic scale. So we've got these 3 other notes. And they create these emotions on their own, because they like make their own statement now based on that chord. So you've got the chord tones, and then so you've got. Sorry, my mind went out of my point there for a second. The extensions then are those 3 leftover notes are what you can also jam on. But where are they? How do you harness them? Well, hardy, you can actually play the same arpeggio, like Larry Carlton says, from different points in the scale and come up with cool new arpeggio sets or little harmonic groups or harmonic structures that create these cool little like sayings, or like just it's like a little vocabulary, if you will. So I was trying to do that in the solo I played earlier. I was playing in C major, doing a little walking up. And some slide-ins. And then see, there was suddenly like a different feeling there because I went into G major. Now the question becomes, well, what intervals do you get with G major? How can you know all that? How can it be easy to do this Larry Carlton trick? Which was this? So this is the Larry Carlton trick. Before we discuss anything you see on your screen here, he basically says, well, just kind of going by what I've remember hearing quite distinctly from as his advice, but never really getting it because I only use triads, like he had alluded to in part of what he was saying, but he did also mention 4-note chords like we're using here. But anyways, he said, okay, so try playing your arpeggio shapes off different root notes of the chord. So you're making different notes of the chord the root note. And so, for example, you might take a C. He goes, all you need to think of is every other note, major, minor, major, minor. You start with the same kind of arpeggio as your chord. So if you got a major 7 chord, you start with a major 7 arpeggio, which is what we got here. C major 7 as our easy, standard, obvious, proper arpeggio to play over a C major 7 chord and have a little coolness in there with that 6 sitting in there, which we're gonna, since we're playing a solo and we're going way up high, we can now consider a 13, but we're gonna talk about that in a second. All right, so you've got this level 1, but he says so major with a major chord, so you got a chord is a root 3rd 5th, a triad. So off the 3rd you go play a minor arpeggio, off the 5th a major arpeggio, and if you have a 7th chord, off the 7th you would then play a minor arpeggio. So major, minor, major, minor. It'll be the opposite when you do a minor chord, a minor 7 chord, which we'll do in our next lesson. For this lesson, let's just focus on major 7 chords, because, let's learn those first. And I've got a great major 7 backing track that'll help us out today. So, and everything's in C major to make everything real easy. So now onto the screen here in our visualizations. So we understand that, okay, we're going to do some C major, discovering what we can play over C major that sounds a little more hip than just playing standard C major, and how it was exactly what Larry Carlton was talking about, and how it's actually much simpler, though, than he was alluding to, because you'll see the structures here. You only need one structure, although you can use some of the other available structures that we've talked about. And you can get the whole thing going with basically 4 different ideas. So all from farther out to closer in. So let's check it out. So our chord that we're playing today, basically I gravitate to this green grip here in the center. So that one where you got your index on that low E at the C, obviously 7th fret. Did I say 7? I meant 8th fret. Alright, correct. So, but we've got it here in blue. That's a real nice sounding chord too. There's it is in brown. Not on your screen like it should be, but here we go. The other brown. Not so easy to grip that one. But yeah, that root, you're back at the blue. Alright, so we gotta see, but it doesn't really matter. Actually, I used to think, these guys, they must be playing off that chord shape, and he can, but actually the patterns we're playing are are right in that chord shape. So, all right. So, what we do then, if we're the first thing you heard me jamming was basically starting with C major. Let's fill out a work like this, like a worksheet here, so we'll get the understanding. But some things down here, this is going to be important to understand, so we don't have to explain this with each chord. The first thing we're going over here on this worksheet is C major 6 arpeggio over the C major 7 chord. And then we're going to be doing G, then we're going to be doing some other arpeggios. And that's all we got. It's just four different arpeggio ideas. Maybe one more, but it's really, really out there and kind of questionable. So, that being said, what are we doing here? So we got C major 6 arpeggio. We watched our last lesson. Make sure you watch that first so you know that C major 6 is definitely doable over C major 7. The 6 is just simply cool, and we have control over the 7s, right? So it's in between the 6. So here's our flatted 7, here's our major 7, and we're dealing with a major 7 chord today. So we're going to pretty much consider that this is our, you can see the gray is our chord here. Why don't we actually make that a really light green so we know we might use that. I have the option to use it if I want. Probably won't, but I might, because those get predictable. But they are tasty notes, so they're the half steps, but I milk them, sparingly. And so I might have a 4 in there too. I could probably put the sharp 4, but that's our control center there. We can make it Lydian, we can make it regular, and I might play with both of those because we just simply have that choice. And it's not in the backing track. No one is suggesting a 4 one way or the other, so it's kind of open for us to make those suggestions. And we're going to see a little later, there's an arpeggio that gives us that specific interval, that sharp 4, and it's going to be a little cool. So moving on from there, then we see that, so we're okay with C major 6. And the reason it works is because it's actually really A minor 7. Just, you're reconfiguring the root. And why does A and C work? Those are relative major and minors. You can see that in the scale. If you find the C and you went backwards from B, C is right here. So B to A, there's that flat third interval. And that toggling, flat third from one to the other, that is a relative pair. So you can see you have a relative pair from C to A, G and E, which is coming up, and D and F, which is coming up, and also B to D from a different scale, but let's see if that comes up today, but we'll wait for that. But anyways, it's important to know today that when you're playing one arpeggio, you're playing the other arpeggio. If I play C, E, G, A, I'm also playing A, C, E, G. Everything is all mixed around anyways, so they're one and the same. And since what happens is, some of the beginners won't realize this, but what happens is, since we're playing against a certain unequivocal, or I don't know if that was the right word, unchanging C major 7 chord, there's nothing else in the backing track except that. So all of our notes are always going to be reflecting or comparative to that root note, which of the chord, the C major 7 chord. So C compared to C, it's a root. The E is going to be a third, the G is going to be a 5, the A is going to be a 6. So even if we were thinking, oh yeah, but dude, Larry Carlton said, man, play the minor off the 6, man. It would actually just be, you're playing the exact same thing. You'd be playing the exact same arpeggio in the exact same shape, in the exact same place, and your 6, your A would still be a 6, your C would still be a root, the E of your chord would still be a 3, and the G would still be the 5th of C, C, E, G. So that's what we're trying to say here. So that relationship is super important to know, because it's going to make everything actually way easier. Because now let's think about this. If we're going to choose to play some arpeggio shapes off of the chord tones, and then let's use up the rest of the scale. Let's play an arpeggio off of D. We'll try one off of F. We'll see if B is in there. And then that leaves us, that basically covers all of our choices that we would want to make. If we played, there is some possibility you could build an arpeggio off the C sharp D flat note, the D sharp E flat note. Building it from the flat 9, from the flat 2, same thing. As referenced over here, we'll jump over here really quick since I said that. Today what we're going to be talking about, since we're kind of talking about playing a solo and being up here with our notes. So it's really going to make our 2 is actually going to be a 9. And it's like, it's one and the same thing. Call it one, call it the other. It's the same note. It's going to be the same note. But, I don't know, just thinking about it in a hip way makes the note sound cooler, doesn't it? I know it doesn't affect the note. Yeah, well, it sort of does, but no, it doesn't. It just, I don't know. Maybe it does. I don't know. But, some guys are cool like that. They're going to call it a 9. Our 2 is going to be a 9. Our 4 is going to be an 11. Our 6 is going to be a 13. So we got the 9, the 11, and the 13 as our cool upper extensions. Our money notes as, I believe, Larry Carlton would call them. So, checking out our scale here, this means that we've got C covered and A covered. Now, notice this as well. Underneath the C major scale that I've drawn out here, we have major in capital M for major, smaller M for minor. Don't worry about the stars just yet. And a lighter blue color for minor. So we've got major, minor, minor, major, G major, A minor, B minor chord. So this comes from information from the major scale. It's how these chords work out. I'm not going to get lost on a tangent explaining the how and why of that. Beginners, if you're lost, then that's where you need to just study that a little more. So we've got major and minor, and it just so corresponds that all this information, okay, play this, play a major off the root. Well, that's kind of of course. But then off the A, you'd play a minor, just like from the scale. And then off the E for C, E, G, you'd play minor off the E, minor off the 3. There it is, lining up just as it sits in the scale. And then you'd play the major off the G, the 5. So you can see it all corresponds there, as I did want to say that. And so now we have C major, and A minor set done right here. Even if, just to reiterate, even if I played off of specifically like, I'm playing A minor, dude. I'm starting on the A. Playing an A minor. It's gonna be A minor. I don't care what you're saying, dude. And that's fine if you wanna. But we can get some miles out of even if we're playing A minor, we're playing that's just gonna sounds like A minor when you play it like this, cause you start thinking about. But we're playing this. Root. So everything's gonna sound C major. So we've killed 2 birds with 1 stone. Let's hear it for a little while. Let's hear it for Let's just start on the wrong note. And right on that 13. Oh yeah. Yeah, man, we're getting hip, right? All right, so that was just plain old C. So where's these next dimensions? Because we've got kind of A covered too. Well, okay, what about these chord tones and what about E and G? What do we were playing E minor arpeggio for the E, the third note of our C major chord, and we're gonna play a G minor. So oh look, if we play one, we're playing the other one. So we can't play E minor because it's going to sound like G major. But, however, maybe we are playing E minor. It really doesn't matter. However, what you might see, though, is why you might think of it as E minor, because check out how the intervals line up then. You get a more obvious progression from the notes as laid out for E minor, these same four notes, E, G, B, D, then it rolls out as 3, 5, raised 7, 9. By the way, some of you are looking at saying like, what's that triangle? You're confusing us, dude. Isn't there usually a B there for flat 7? And like, yeah, there is, but that's a flat 7 note, and we're definitely, most positively and certainly not playing that flat 7. If we turn this into a flat 7 and we're playing a C dominant chord, our whole thing, our whole idea, our concept of music is going to change, because I'm going to play tension. We're in a different part of the music if the 5 chord is going on. So this is a symbol you'll typically find, although it'll be a full triangle. This is standing for raised 7. And I just like to put that on there because I thought, hey, cause hey, I'll take the antipasto with the breadsticks. Come on, hey. Oh, sorry, we're not at Olive Garden. Sorry. Okay. You've got the if you're starting to read chord sheets, lead sheets, whatever, you might run across that symbol, and it'll be great to already have that primer here from Mind's Eye Visual Guitar Method. So I tried to remember to put that in wherever, if you saw that, we're seeing that symbol earlier, that's what that was all about. That is a raised 7. To tell you, it's at 7 just before the root for that specific major 7 sound. Okay, so keeping it major, man. So, you can consider definitely playing E minor 7. However, I'm still using that shape, suggesting we're playing from G major. That's a G right there. But our root is the 5 of the chord of the moment, which is C major. C, E, G. 1, 3, 5. Play the suddenly then decided to play D major there. I'm just going hybrid there, but anyways, see, I'd actually think about it much more clearly and quickly if I just choose the G note on the fretboard here on the B string up around the 8th fret, and then play my D shape and the arrows. A rubber band. Alright, so actually what we didn't do here, I didn't do this. So let's be but as quick as possible. We got to get down the scale here. So this is what I was thinking about. I was actually playing, all my shapes here. This is my the scale I was using, and this gives us the arrow shape there that I know you all know, but we'll draw it out nice and quick and fast. Alright, like Bob Ross over here. Alright, so yeah, you got your your arrow shape down there. So you got your arrow Camaro, and that is the C note right there. So that helps us locate. This is why I tend to choose major, because I like to locate. I've got all these, mapped out on this string. So if I need F, If I needed G, F, A, C, D, I got all those available. I can get, I'm playing, this C shape, and I can get, whatever happened there, get into this C shape, and then I can play the arrow pattern there, and then get back into this shape down here and go other places. Have my control box is inside here, and oh yeah, we got that one more note that I like to play over there. On screen, please. Not that that is a really good screen to see anything on. Anyways, so GE, we bring good things to light. Major 6, E minor 7, same thing. And so here I am in my in a different, basically the other kind of row here. You'll know this if you watch the other bunch of lessons there. But anyways, so like, here's our big arpeggio shape here, our rectangle. So we link it up like, basically a flagpole with 2 flags on it kind of deal. And then we have our one here that doesn't line up the exact same way because, that goes over the G to B string shift. But if you notice, you only have to know 2 different concepts to get across that anomaly and know every note that we need to have for these arpeggio shapes. So one is you're playing this, the square here. Basically the square is across the gap cleanly. So you just have to remember that the whole thing is shifted up to where it makes a light pole there. And if we look back at our arrow shape here, that arrow thing is kind of created because our square arpeggio shape does cross the G to B string shift. So you have one as a broken box there, as we've discussed 10 million times before. So there is my basically my my pattern for G. But I'd also would quickly kind of get to, hey, let me play the G over this progression here, this chord vamp. If I want to do that, I might jump over here really quick. So here I am with G, and we'll just make that blue like we have done in the past. So, so we got the arrows, right? It's always going to be like that. So there, and there. And that means once we hit this note right here, I'm into my upper square. Basically my square that's the on the A and D string pair. Yeah, and then we got one of these over here and then over here. Might as well put that one down over here. Alright, so excuse me. So we've got all that mess, and we can kind of see that with our C. I'm going to just put an X in there for, like, our C major shape was here and there. So you can see, like, if I take the X and I just walk down to G, I can get right into that shape kind of seamlessly before anybody knows it and just be playing in my G major arpeggio, which is E minor, which is basically giving us this. So then what we're playing is this. We've got the 3, or we're leaving out the root. This is what's cool about this. So what you're doing is very specifically by targeting these notes, you're playing the 3rd, the 5th, that raised 7th, and this is going to be cool because, you're not playing the root, but you are playing the 3rd of the chord. So you're nailing that as a locked right in, a note that locks right in with the chord in a very pleasing way. The 5, once again, pure triad tone, good to go. Now you're stepping away a little bit, and you've got that raised 7th, catering to that raised 7th that you weren't doing in the C. Remember, the C major arpeggio has got a 6. So now you're targeting that raised 7. And then you have you have that pretty outside note, that 9 that you were avoiding playing in the C major arpeggio, except for I wasn't totally avoiding it because a lot of times I like to walk down to, once I hit that 5, I like to walk down, I'm sorry, that 3. Hit that 3, walk it down to the 2, walk it back up, maybe something like that. Just walking between the 2 and the 3 is that one note here that you get as in the control box for minor. And that is the one time, when you do think about that minor arpeggio that makes the diamond shape. So here we have E. So you still get that note in the middle there, that A, the 6, and that's why we got that note over here. So what do you get control over in this box? As you can see here, still get control of that 4. So you could put a sharp 4 in there. So while that's playing, so I can play that. For C. That spacey sharp 4. Here's that regular 4. Got its own cool sound. Alright, so we got control of the 4s. In between the 7 and the 9, we really get control of a 2. That flat 9, if I got a 9, I'm probably not going to use the flat 9. I might, it's something to experiment with, but probably not. So I'm really going to stick with the root right there. And so it would be like... So I'm here hitting that root. Root. So now that I'm here at the 12th fret, in my orange box there, I could be in that C since I got an X right there. So I played back into C. There, I'm now down to G. Alright. So there's more, but there we have G major and E minor. Now look at, this is the one final important bit here. We have now taken care of 4 of these tones of our scale. We are running out of choices here that quick on 2 different shapes. Playing off the root, playing the major arpeggio off the root, playing a major arpeggio off the 3rd, and we've covered all the chord tones now. The only thing we have left is to try to play what arpeggios can be found if we try a non-chord tone, one of the scale tones, right? So stepping stone notes, so D, F, and B. Now you'll notice earlier I'll mention it now, we had this little star on the B and the D because at the very end, for our last one, we're going to make a change. Well, actually it'll work like this. There's going to be a relation between the D and the B, and that happens because this B, you might know this. Some of you astute students are going to know, hey, Mark, this is what I was wondering earlier. When you said major, minor, minor, major, major, minor, I was following until you went here. Isn't that supposed to say diminished? Well, yes, it is. However, we're not talking... We don't have a need here for the full-on music theory explanation. We just need the basics. And we need to make things a little easier. We just need triads. And so typically this would be like a diminished triad. We would be, and we could try to make an arpeggio off of that. I did not do that, but you probably could play the diminished arpeggio from that note and have something pretty cool sounding, for sure. But what I did here is we tweaked it a little bit, just the same way we tweaked, this should say 7 for dominant 7. It's the 5, right? Well, we just used the triad, so it was just major with no 7 implied. It's there, but we didn't imply it. So we can just consider that simple major. And the same thing here, we're not implying that flat fifth. We're using the regular 5, and that's going to do something cool. That's actually going to turn this D major, and this will be the minor, and then we'll see what kind of cool sounds that can provide. But first a message from our sponsor here, D. D minor is, we're doing D and F, basically the last choice that we have before we try to go off the black keys. So D and F, but we're using the standard from the scale D and F, so that's our pair here is for major and minor relatives as the 2 and the 4 of the parent scale, C major. You have F major and D minor. And so there we have it. So then we have our D minor 7 chord, which is rooted by the relative major root, just like the other. Obviously it's the same thing, same formula, becomes a major 6. No surprise there. And so we've got a D minor 7 is the way we might be thinking about this to keep it. As you can see here, you get a little bit more more logical lineup of intervals. We have the 9th. Then we're playing that 11th, that spooky 4, right? Actually, then that's a standard 4. We're not playing the sharp 4, so we've got that regular 11, and we've got a 13, our 6, which is now a 13 in our cool jammin' thinking, and a root. So, kind of sounds kind of cool. I mean, you got the root to ground you back to the chord, but kind of your most standard tensionless note mixed with your higher tension, all extensions, no middle of the road tone here. So I personally think this one is a little tense, and I don't care for it as much. But no matter which way you think about it, F major 6 or D minor 7, I could just, tell you the F major 6 too. You're playing off the 4. That's another issue there. The 4 is that kind of, take your time with that note. But anyways, yeah, you just get this, like you see the kind of an imbalance in intervals, and I don't like it as much. But anyways, how would we find it really quick? Well, F and D, so here's what I would even think of it, probably get there quickest, like thinking, like I didn't even put an F down here, but F and D, so, or up here, here's our D, our chord of the moment, as we can see, is down here in the 8th fret. So we go to that 10th fret, which is D, and I would have that D minor arpeggio, and I'm going to show you that because, well, that's going to be the root, right? And then we're going to have the, I got caps lock on here, so root, I'll have the 11 here, and that brings us to the 13 over here. That gives us the 5 in the middle there. And then that leaves us with a 9 down here. Is that so? Yes. No, that would be, we are incorrect there. That would be the, Houston, we have a, did I screw this up? Let's go over these intervals. F is a 4, A is the 6, yep, C is the root, and D is the 9. So what am I doing wrong here? Oh, because I was supposed to go with D minor. Just to see, oh, yeah, that's the root. That's where we messed up. Oh, because this was the root for D minor, but we're not thinking like that. We're playing it, but we're thinking, what's the D starting on? The D we're playing from the 9th of our C. When we play like this, if we got a C major going, if I go the step up, I'm playing a 9. It's kind of got a cool sound. Ooh, da, doo, da, boom, ba, boom, ba, boom. There's that 5 as we got pictured right here, which was silly of me not to have just looked right over there. But that's what I wanted to show you there. Sometimes it is really handy to think about these as they are in the. So let's do that. Let's fill it out here. I think I was one later there. We'll use that. All right. So here we go. All right. So when I play this arpeggio, I do. I know that I'm going to have a square box down here-ish, and that's going to bring me to my. Basically, I'm playing into my orange box area here. When I play this scale, I'm as dumb as a snail. And you can see here, yep, we're kind of are around there and there. And, yeah. So, something like that. You can see that. I can play. So here's the F. Since we're playing, that's F major. That's where our what is going to be there, folks. If you're saying the arrows, then you are right. All right. So let's tighten this lesson up a bit. You know the shape there. Just wanted to do a little worksheet there. So now, anytime, and this diamond here is around other places here. If you find it, anytime you find that 5, it's going to be around. And so, like there's that 5 right there. Not going to use that color for it though. But like if you found that this interval, you can do your encapsulating there, toggle it, whatever you do with it, up around different parts of the fretboard. But we'll just mess around with it up here. Let me play this a little bit. Get that cursor to the beginning. Playing C major. So I played that F a little bit as a half step with that C. Alright, here I go. Resolve. Orange. Couple scale notes in there. Putting some cheesy single lines in there. Because I think it's pretty out there. Like I said, you got that root. Well, let's experiment with that. Root. The 11, that's a 4. 9. There's that 13. 11, 13. You can really always just resolve it. So, not that great. Here we are, way up the fretboard though. You have to get creative to make it sound kind of cool, but then you get back into C. Bring the audience back to sanity, throw a little G in there. Matter of fact, put the G in between the C and the D. C, G, D, G, C. Quiet over there. So, now we have three choices, and they're all from the scale, and they're all understandable and pretty easy. So we play from the, and if you kind of realize there, we're playing from the 1, play from major from the 1, major from the 4, major from the 5, and you get all the rest. So 1, 4, 5. Hey, what do you know? There's 1, 4, 5 again. So kind of cool. And what Larry Carlton was talking about is he specifically said, from what I remember, okay, I can't say he specifically said if I qualified it with I remember because, well, I remember wrong a lot. So anyways, but I thought I heard him say you can, even take, these triads, but you can make it a 7th chord. When you're playing that minor, you play that 7th chord. So if you can play the minor as a 7th chord, or you're playing the major, it's the same thing. And furthermore, if you wanted to, I also wanted to say this, if you wanted to just play remember there's a lot of ways you can play this game. You got a whole palette of things to mess around with this simple scale system idea here. So if I just wanted to play the triads in whichever one I choose, the C major, the F major, or the G major, you go to the arrows and you've got your 2 triad shapes right here. So for example, in C, I could just play, I just don't like them as much. I just thought they were a little limited. But there would be the C major, the notes of the C major triad. Tried and true, totally working. The notes of the the A minor triad. Now, truth be told, that those two triads are only 1 note apart. A, C, E, so you've got the C, E, and you've got C, E, G, so you're really just switching the A and the G around. Let's hear it. A minor, so we got that different statement, but then I did end it back to the C, or the 4th note of the A minor 7 arpeggio. Try it with G. E minor, G. Definitely they make a statement with each other. Call and then the response. sticking with G? How about a little harder sell, but that is, oh, good time to shut that off. A little harder sell, but D minor, F major. Pretty cool. All right, so and then with that, we've got all of our chord tones worked out. Is there anything else? Is there a secret one that Larry hinted at that we haven't gone over? And here's one. I found that I also sort of liked the sound of D major, and that worked out because I took the B and I made it just a minor triad, and then I expanded that minor triad into its minor 7 chord and realized that all I'm playing is, well, B minor 7, D major 6. And what's that going to cover? Well, basically D major from the and that's from the D major scale. The D major would be the 1 and B would be the well, I guess you could fit that in a couple other scales, but not to worry about that. But what to know is that, you know, making a major gives us one note different. And if I forgot a little symbol there, we'll add that F. And we'll put the sharp right there. Yeah. All right. So D, F sharp, A, B gives us the 9 as related to C, which is our chord of the moment. The D is going to be the 9. Pretty cool. The F is going to be a sharp 11. And I'm going to tell you why that's really cool right now, because that sharp 11 is what? It's that Lydian note, but we're not really expressly nailing Lydian. But the cool thing is the chord of the backing track in this particular one, at least anyways, isn't playing any 4 in the backing track. So there's no suggestion in the music if this is a regular 4, which would be related to the 1 chord of the key. So like a C from C Ionian, C major would have a regular 4. But if it was the 4 chord, which it would be in the key of G, C is the 4 chord of G. And C major, and that would be the 4 is always associated with the Lydian mode, because the way the scale works out, you get that sharp 4 in there, and that sharp 4 is right here, so we get like a taste of Lydian, a taste of a dinner with a sauce and a meatball. You get a little bit of the Lydian, Parmesan Lydian, yeah, and all right, so yeah, Lydian, get a little taste of Lydian there. And now, a taste of Lydian with Marco, right? Maybe that should be my my new channel name, A Taste of Lydian. All right, so, all right, we'll put that one away. So 13, we got a 13 then. And then we got the, to kind of mellow it back into the chord, we've got that somewhat outside, dragging kind of away, or wanting to lead into, pop back into the C with that leading tone, that B, that raised 7 of the C chord, the B. So we've got a pretty cool set of intervals here. Let's give it a try and see what happens. C major to start with. Enough C there. That's right, wanted to be right on that C so I could walk it up. I think that sounds real hip. Nothing really clashes and it sounds weird. Very wandery. B minor, B minor, we'll encapsulate that note, the third of C. Scale. That is the secret scale. You could almost do anything with it and sound pretty hip. And if you notice, all you're really doing is encapsulating this particular chord of the moment here with a pentatonic. Trying to escape that minor pentatonic, well, might as well just put that idea to rest because it can sound pretty cool if you know what you're doing. Now, if you can see here, oh, okay, there, look at it. It's just like you're playing the 4 chord. If this was the major scale, you could see here, oh, that's this, using this root note with this scale shape. Well, that's Lydian. And so, yeah, because you're playing off the 4 there of the scale. And then the rest of your notes kind of imply all that. And how do they imply all that? Well, because we're playing the major, just basically a D major, putting the arpeggio off D major. So, if you can see now, actually, D minor sounded pretty cool, but D major sounded kind of real hip. So what you got is you got a possibility of playing C major, D major, don't worry about E because it's already in the G major, so we can play F major, G major, and then finally, can you play A major? I don't know, we're going to try that in a second, but it's pretty far out there. If we did do A major, I'll show you what the notes are, and I haven't done anything else with B. We could try that B diminished arpeggio, but I don't have that securely under my fingertips at the moment, so we're just going to skip that. I'll let you guys experiment with that. All right, so we got root here. What would we have here? So, oh, that wouldn't be our root. That would be our 9, right? Our 9, our 2D2. 9. And then we would have the, that's the F sharp there, so we would have the sharp 11, right? All right, and then we would have the, must be the 13 there. And then we get the, what do we have there? Yeah, we have the B there, and that's going to be the raised 7, and then the, yeah, there, the 9, because it's an octave. And there's the other 9. All right. So what do we get in our control box? Well, from a raised 7, we're going to have the root right there. That means like before, we have that option to play the flat 9 with the other 9. I wouldn't do that. You can experiment with it. So, but I might slide into the 9. You can always do that. So, after the sharp, we got a 5 right there. It's probably what I would play in there. So probably make like a little Phrygian looking scale there, if you know what I mean. But play that. There's a few too many notes. So you can see I'm using all the notes of the scale. You're getting too crowded. Yeah. Really, really is probably That's probably the biggest, the best, the coolest secret. So, for those who stuck around to the end, you guys got the secret. And yeah, that's gonna wrap it up so I can keep the time frame down. It's probably already up to the magic hour number, which I don't know how I can talk so long with just 4 pages. But anyways, that's the whole story with our new multi-dimensional way to play. You got what I said earlier, that these are these clusters of these arpeggio clusters create a harmonic framework, or a harmonic cluster, a harmonic system of notes that ring well with each other. And it's these combos of notes. It's not necessarily single notes. That's why there's no special scale and no special note from that scale that these guys are targeting per se. For these great sounds that you're hearing, I believe that you are hearing more clusters of great notes, and then some of the notes that they land on just automatically sound good because they're ringing in harmonically with an idea, a little statement that made sense to the listener. And this is how you do it. So I hope you are walking away with a brand new epiphany of music. Best you can find here on YouTube, as YouTube basically rots to the core with all of these AI videos. Oh, did I say that? Probably making the algorithm mad there, but oh my lord, I cannot stand some of this stuff. But that's a whole nother topic I'll talk about in another video. Please check the links below. At the very least, hit the like and subscribe if you want to see more of this content, because it just keeps on, it's a gift that keeps on giving if you see my last 10 years worth of lessons here. And, click some links below that involve, hey, leaving a tip. If this was like, hey, oh my God, that was worth $2, $5, $10. Hit that buy a coffee link below. Please do that. It's not really happening at the moment. So, but hey, leave a comment too. Tell me what is still confusing, or some other concepts that you might have. And then, okay, see if this works for concepts for the other players I mentioned earlier in the video. And stay tuned. The next lesson we'll do this for minor, and then maybe some other chords. We'll figure out some cool things to do over dominant chords and stuff like that. Thank you for watching. Have a great day, and I appreciate you guys a lot. See ya.